The silence before the storm, the galaxy had gone quiet. Not from peace, but from fear. At first it was just a strange signal, small, silent, and unnoticed by most. But soon, every sensor across thousands of star systems picked up the same impossible message. 700,000 human warships had launched. No one believed it. No one wanted to believe it. For over 100 years, the galaxy thought humans were finished. Earth had vanished from politics. Their last known battle had ended in flames. Their colonies had gone dark. Many assumed they had destroyed themselves. But now, they were back, and they weren't sending a message of peace. They weren't sending any message at all. The Galactic Council gathered in emergency session. Leaders from over 300 species stared at the massive holoscreen as ship counts continued to rise. 700,000, whispered a Skavari general. That's not a fleet, that's extinction. The human ships weren't near any major worlds, yet, but they were moving, slowly, steadily, like a wave. Like a storm building far out at sea, ready to swallow everything. No one knew their destination. No one knew their purpose. But everyone understood one thing. The galaxy would never be the same. In a quiet system called Varan 6, a small cargo station floated above a peaceful planet. It was run by merchants. Nothing military, nothing political. Just trade. Until the shadows came. At first, the station's crew thought it was a solar eclipse. But there were no moons nearby. No clouds in space. What blocked the light were ships, massive, black, ancient-looking ships, lined up in silent formation, no weapons raised, no signal sent, just watching. Commander Reth, a lizard-like alien, stared through the viewport. "I've never seen a fleet this size," he said, his voice dry. "Are they here to attack?" His second-in-command, a young mammalian officer, shook her head slowly. "If they wanted to, we'd be dead already." Then the human message came, only one line. "This is not a war. This is remembrance." Remembrance? Of what? No one could answer. News spread fast. Across the galaxy, fear turned into panic. Old war veterans told stories about Earth's last stand, how humans fought like cornered animals, even when they had no chance of winning. How they never surrendered. How they made machines that learned faster than enemy AIs. But now, they had returned with more ships than the entire Council Navy combined. Some called it a bluff, some called it vengeance, but some called it justice. A few remembered how the Council had abandoned Earth during the war, how they watched from a distance and let the humans burn. Maybe now, humanity was coming back to remind the galaxy of what it had ignored. In the capital world of Zareen, the Supreme Chancellor stared at the map of fleet movement. The ships weren't attacking. They were passing, moving through systems without firing. Stopping near old human colonies, visiting abandoned outposts from wars long past. It was like they were retracing history. "Why don't they speak?" she asked. No one answered. But deep in the old ruins of Mars, on a once-dead human colony, a small beacon activated, buried under red sand, untouched for centuries, it came to life with a pulse. A message left by a long-dead human general. "If we fall, we will return. Not in anger, but in memory. And the stars will remember who we were." That message spread across human ships and was picked up by alien sensors. Suddenly, everything made sense. This wasn't a fleet for conquest. It was a funeral march, a warning, a reminder. Humanity had not come to destroy. They had come to be seen, to show the galaxy that they never truly left, to remind every race, every empire, every species, that humanity may disappear for a time, but it will always return. Stronger, smarter, united, and somewhere, in the deepest part of space, something else watched the human fleet. Something old. Something that once tried to end Earth and failed. The galaxy feared the 700,000 ships. But maybe the humans weren't preparing for war. Maybe they were preparing for what was still coming, and that was the scariest thought of all. The day the stars turned black, Syraxis Prime was a peaceful planet. Its skies were clear, its oceans deep blue, and its cities full of music and laughter. For 200 years, it had never seen war. Its people believed they were safe, protected by distance and the illusion that trouble never came to quiet worlds. But on the 8th cycle of the solar bloom, something changed. The sun didn't rise. At first, people thought it was a weather glitch or an eclipse. But when scientists checked the satellites, they saw the truth. The sky was full of ships, not hundreds, not thousands, tens of thousands of human warships, moving slowly above the planet, black, silent, blocking out the light like a moving shadow across the stars. The people of Syraxis panicked. Emergency sirens screamed. Ships tried to flee, but the human fleet didn't react. It didn't fire. It didn't move toward the cities. It just watched. In the capital, Governor Tolan, a three-eyed diplomat, stood in the control tower. He had never seen a human in person before. Now he saw thousands of their ships stretching across the sky. They could destroy us in seconds, he whispered. Beside him, his aide trembled. Why don't they? No one had an answer. Meanwhile, high above the planet, on the bridge of a flagship named EHS Soulbound, a human admiral named Saren Vale watched the surface without emotion. Planet's not a target, she said coldly. They just happen to be under the path. A junior officer glanced at her. Should we respond to their hails? Saren shook her head. No. Let them feel it. Let them remember what they chose to forget. She turned and walked away from the window. Below, Syraxis broadcasted messages in every known language. We are peaceful. Please respond. We offer no threat. What do you want? But the ship said nothing. Instead, one thing happened. A massive projection appeared in the sky, a hologram thousands of meters wide. It showed images from Earth's last days, human cities burning, children being evacuated, soldiers standing, back to back, outnumbered, outgunned, but never giving up. Then a voice, calm, human, female, spoke across all frequencies. We remember everything. That was it. The message ended. The fleet moved on. The next planet reported the same event, then the next, then the next. Every system along the human fleet's path received the same silent visit. A black sky, a ghost fleet, and a message of memory. But it wasn't just memory, it was warning. In hidden corners of the galaxy, some alien leaders panicked. Old warlords ordered attacks, but the human ships moved in perfect formation. Their shields were up, weapons ready, not threatening, but never exposed. A single wrong move could mean total destruction. And still, they said nothing. Because the message wasn't for one planet or one race. It was for the entire galaxy. Far from Syraxis, in a secret archive on the planet Rune, an ancient historian opened a sealed human record. It had been hidden for over a century, labeled Last Protocol if Earth Falls. It read, "We will vanish, but not forever. When we return, it will not be with a whisper. It will be with the weight of everything you let happen. We will not ask for justice. We will carry it." The historian dropped the tablet, because he now understood. This wasn't a war fleet. It was a memory brought to life. A moving monument. A black tide of silence that reminded the galaxy what it had done, or failed to do. But something darker stirred. In the void beyond known space, something old began to wake. It saw the 700,000 ships moving. It felt the vibration of humanity rising again, and it remembered too. Because long ago, it had tried to wipe Earth from existence, and failed. Now it whispered across the stars, "They are marching again," and for the first time in eons, it was afraid. Secrets buried in the void in the far edges of the galaxy, where stars fade into cold darkness, a small alien scout team made a shocking discovery. The crew of the Yalari Pathfinder, a science vessel from the neutral world of Norak 2, found a single human ship drifting in silence, no movement, no lights, no power. It was massive, 10 times the size of any known alien battleship, and covered in black armor older than anything the scouts had ever seen. The ship bore no name, just a number. Unit 001. It was the first, the original, and it had been waiting. Captain Drex, a cautious insectoid scientist, ordered a boarding mission. His crew, 3 biologists and 2 tech engineers, entered the ship through a broken hull section. Inside, there were no signs of damage, no signs of battle, just stillness, and rows of frozen humans, thousands of them, locked in, cryopods sealed with old Earth military logos, some so faded they looked like fossils. Many were marked with red tags, pre-fall elite, classified. One pod flickered as the scouts passed, a heartbeat, a blink, and then eyes opened. The humans were alive, sleeping, waiting, and now they were waking up. Captain Drex sent out a distress call, not of danger, but of discovery. This ship predates the Galactic Council, he whispered into the comms. These humans aren't soldiers, they're survivors from a forgotten war. We believe they were hidden now on purpose. In a hidden chamber, one of his crew found a data core. They plugged it into their reader. A hologram appeared. A human general stood tall, scarred with cybernetic eyes. Behind him, Earth burned. His voice was low and calm. If you are seeing this, then we were right. We couldn't win the war, but we could outlive it. This ship and many like it carry Earth's last defenders, cryo-frozen, hidden, buried across the galaxy. One day they will rise again, and when they do, the stars will shake. The alien crew froze. Suddenly, the mystery was clear. The 700,000 ships weren't just war machines, they were coffins. And now, the dead were waking up. News of the discovery spread like wildfire. Across systems, alien networks buzzed with the message. The human fleet isn't just built, it's alive. Every ship carried frozen soldiers, ancient veterans, warriors with memories of a war no one remembered and pain no one understood. Now, those memories were returning, and the galaxy feared what would happen when they all woke. Up back on EHS Soulbound, Admiral Seren Vale watched a list of reactivated ships. One by one, pods were thawing. One by one, commanders were rising. Behind her, a crew member whispered, "What if the galaxy thinks we're coming for revenge?" Seren didn't look away from the screen. Let them think, let them fear. Is that why we're here? No, she said. We're here because something worse is coming. Something they've all forgotten. In the dark regions outside the galactic border, a pulse spread through space. Not from humans, from something else. A mind, old, cold, alien, hungry. It watched the human fleet rise, and it remembered them, because it was the one that tried to erase Earth all those centuries ago. It had nearly won. But now, it saw the signs. Earth's dead were waking, and this time, they were not alone. On a quiet moon, the first reawakened soldier, Commander Elias Ward, stepped out of his pod. His body shook. His breath fogged the air. He looked up at the stars, eyes full of history. They don't know what's coming, he said softly. A nearby technician asked, "The aliens? The council?" Elias shook his head. "No. It. What is it?" He turned, voice like thunder. "The thing that made Earth burn. We stopped it once. Barely. Now it's coming again." He walked to the command deck and activated the war console. Wake the others. And across 700,000 ships, lights came on. Cryopods hissed, weapons unlocked, and the galaxy began to tremble. The treaty that meant nothing. The Galactic Council was desperate. For the first time in history, every species in the galaxy agreed on something. The human fleet must be stopped. But they couldn't do it with weapons. They had tried, building fleets. They had tried threats. Nothing worked. The human warships ignored them, passed over their planets like shadows, untouchable, silent. So now they tried diplomacy. In the golden halls of the Council Tower on Zareen Prime, the leaders of 312 alien civilizations stood together, waiting. The air was tense, nervous, quiet, and then, without warning, a light shimmered at the center of the chamber. A human figure appeared, not a projection, a real person. She stepped forward wearing a black and silver uniform. Her eyes were cold. Her skin pale from years in cryo-sleep. She said nothing at first. The crowd stared, frozen. This was the first time a human had entered the council chamber in over 100 years. The silence broke when Chancellor Run, a 10-legged, crusted creature, spoke in a deep voice. "You are surrounded by leaders of the galaxy. We request peace." Still, the human did not speak. "Your ships are waking the dead. Your fleets have passed through our skies. But we remember the treaty. The one signed before Earth fell, it still stands. We honored it, will you?" The human looked at them all, and finally spoke. 5 words. The treaty ended centuries ago. The room went silent. It was as if the words had stabbed the galaxy itself. "What do you mean?" One ambassador stammered. "We've kept the terms. We never touched Earth again." "We?" The human interrupted. Her voice was cold steel. "You stayed away because we were no longer a threat. Not because you cared. When Earth burned, you watched. When we begged for aid, you turned off your channels. You let us die." She looked around at the chamber of powerful beings and said, "We didn't come to rewrite the treaty. We came to bury it." The council panicked. Some shouted. Some demanded war. Some offered apologies too late to matter. But none of it reached the human envoy. She was already walking away. As she stepped into her ship, her final message broadcasted across every known system. "We do not seek revenge, we seek truth, and truth never needed permission." Across the galaxy, the message echoed like thunder. People whispered it in bars, in bunkers, in boardrooms. The treaty is dead. Fear spread like wildfire. If humans no longer followed council law, what would stop them? Some called for surrender. Others called for war. But some began to ask a different question. What were the humans preparing for? Far from the politics and panic, in deep space, EHS Soulbound docked with an ancient command station, Unity Node 9. The Admiral, Saren Vale, met with awakened commanders from other fleets. There they played old human footage, recordings from before the fall. Footage of a different kind of enemy. Not a species, not an empire, not something born in space, something beyond. A living shadow, a force that consumed stars, and it was coming back. "Does the council know?" one officer asked. "No," Saren replied. "They're too busy fearing us, they don't see what's behind us." "And when it arrives?" Saren looked through the glass into the void. "They'll beg us to fight it, and we will. But not for them, for us, for Earth." And so, while the galaxy argued about treaties and pride, humanity armed its ancient fleets. Cryo-soldiers trained again, and the galaxy remained blind to the truth. The humans weren't just here to remind the stars of their past. They were preparing for a future that would shatter everything. Shadows from beyond the edge. It started with the stars. They began to vanish, not from explosions, not from dust or time. They were being eaten. In the outer edges of the galaxy, uncharted, unclaimed, and forgotten, entire sectors went dark. Probes sent to investigate never returned. Beacons went silent. Even light itself stopped reaching neighboring systems. The galaxy called it a malfunction. The humans knew better. On EHS Soulbound, Admiral Saren Vale stared at the holographic map. It showed a spreading black zone, silent, empty, growing, faster, each day. Behind her, Commander Elias Ward, freshly awakened from cryo, said what no one else dared to. "It's back," Seren nodded slowly. "The thing that made us disappear." The Galactic records had no name for it, because the Council never knew it existed, but Earth called it the Hollow Swarm. Centuries ago, before Earth's fall, the swarm came from beyond the galaxy's edge, not ships, not machines. Living void. Consciousness without form. It didn't conquer. It didn't demand. It simply consumed. Stars, planets, minds. Anything that gave off life or light. Earth fought it alone. No one believed them. No one helped. But somehow, the humans survived. Barely. And when they did, they made a promise. Next time, they would not fight alone. Now, the swarm had returned, and the Council had no idea. Too focused on the threat of Earth, they couldn't see the true enemy moving in the shadows behind it. But humans saw it, felt it, because their soldiers had faced it before. Their minds still carried the scars. And now, they were waking up just in time to fight again. In a dark system called Varaxa 3, the first true warning arrived. An alien science vessel picked up strange patterns, movements that didn't match any known ship. The team sent out drones to scan a distant asteroid belt. Only one drone returned. The footage showed something terrifying. Stars blinking out, one by one, as massive black shapes drifted past. No engines, no heat, no signals, just silence. And then, one final image. The drone's camera shaking violently before being swallowed by a crawling, writhing shadow. Then, static. The aliens tried to warn the Council, but the message never arrived. Because the swarm was already there, waiting. Back at Unity Node 9, Elias activated the emergency signal. The message would go out to every species, every fleet, every planet. This is not about Earth. This is about survival. The thing that destroyed us is returning, and this time it won't stop with us. It will consume everything. But before the message could finish broadcasting, the station lost power. The lights dimmed. Then the alarms began to scream. Seren grabbed the rail as the floor trembled. They found us. Outside, on the edge of the system, something massive, unfolded, a shape that didn't follow physics. Black, liquid, alive. It flowed through space like smoke underwater, wrapping around satellites and ripping signals apart. It wasn't just approaching, it was searching. For Earth, for light, for minds. Seren looked at Elias. "Do we run?" Elias shook his head. "No, we record. Let them know what's coming." They stood at the command console as the swarm drew. Near no weapons would stop it. But one thing might: unity. Across the galaxy, bits of the human message leaked before the blackout. Some ignored it. Others laughed. But a few listened, and those few began to prepare. Because something darker than war was coming, and the only force that had ever survived it was waking once again. The alliance no one expected. The stars were going dark. Entire systems had vanished. Communication. Lines were broken. Colonies that had stood for centuries were now gone. And still, the Council hesitated. They argued, blamed Earth, accused the human fleet of fear-mongering. Until one day, a new signal reached the core spire. Not from a diplomat, from a ghost, a survivor from the Varaxa system. The video showed a planet crumbling, its skies covered in living blackness. Cities melted into silence. Ships exploded without a sound. And just before the feed cut, the voice of a terrified alien screamed, "The void has come! Earth was right!" The chamber fell silent. The Council could no longer ignore the truth. But they still didn't know what to do. They had no weapons strong enough, no unity, no leadership. They needed someone who had faced this horror before. They needed the one species they had feared, rejected, and abandoned. They needed humans. A meeting was called, not in the council chambers, but aboard EHS Soulbound, now orbiting the galactic core. Alien ships approached, one by one, carrying leaders who had once called Earth a threat. Now, they came with open hands and desperate hearts. Inside the command hall, Admiral Seren Vale stood at the head of the table. She did not smile. She did not gloat. She simply said, "We warned you. Now help us stop it." Some were still hesitant. The Scavari warlord growled, "Why should we trust the species that returned in silence and shadows?" Commander Elias Ward stepped forward, placing a small data crystal on the table. A hologram lit up, showing Earth's final battle centuries ago. Billions died, not from war, not from greed, but to hold the line against the swarm, while the rest of the galaxy turned away. When the footage ended, the warlord looked down in shame. "We didn't know." Elias stared at him, eyes cold. "You didn't ask." And so the impossible happened. Enemies sat side by side, warlords, kings, scientists, refugees, all under human leadership. A new flag was raised, not of conquest, but of survival. They called it the Coalition of the Last Light. Old alien weapons were reactivated. Human AI tech was shared across species. Former enemies trained together, ate together, fought together. In just days, the largest fleet in galactic history was born. Not 700,000 ships, but over 1 million, moving as one. Their mission? Defend the galactic core and make a stand before the swarm reached the heart of civilization. On Naue, the bridge of a coalition command ship, an alien pilot turned to Elias. "Do you think we can win?" Elias didn't answer right away. He looked out at the stars, so many of them already swallowed. Then he said, "Alone, we die. Together, we fight. And maybe, just maybe, we survive." But as the fleet prepared, a whisper came across human comms. A voice not heard in centuries. From the edge of the galaxy, the original swarm. It spoke in broken words, as if learning again. "You woke the dead. They belong to us." And then, coordinates. Not an attack, a challenge. Admiral Seren closed her eyes. The swarm wasn't just coming. It wanted to finish what it started, and it wanted humanity to watch. As ships jumped to light speed, the galaxy held its breath. Because now, it wasn't just Earth's fight, it was everyone's. And at the head of the fleet, humanity stood tall. Not as conquerors, but as the last hope. When the galaxy stood as one, the stars were no longer just stars. Now they were witnesses. Witnesses to the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. Over 1 million warships from hundreds of species, moving together for the first time in history, at D. The front of it all flew the human flagship, EHS Soulbound. Behind it, armadas of alien races that had once feared, hated, and ignored Earth. Now followed its lead. Not because they were forced, but because they believed. They believed in humanity's warning. They believed in unity, and most of all, they believed this might be their last chance. Across the galaxy, civilians watched from their homeworlds, holding their breath. Massive screens on every planet broadcasted the fleet's movement. Fathers hugged children, mothers cried. Even soldiers on distant battlefronts stopped fighting and looked up. Because this battle wasn't about borders anymore. It was about survival. The fleet reached the outer edge of the galaxy, the place known only as the Black Curtain. No stars beyond it, just cold space, and the ancient enemy. And then, it came. The hollow swarm. Not ships, not machines, just endless darkness, moving, twisting, swallowing light and sound, tearing reality itself. The swarm didn't speak. It didn't ask. It just devoured. The first wave of alien ships opened fire, superweapons, energy beams, planet-busting torpedoes. The void swallowed them all, No sound, no damage, no response. The swarm kept moving. Human Admiral Seren Vale gave the order. Engage everything. All units, hold the line. The galaxy responded with thunder. Human cryo-soldiers dropped onto the front lines fighting alongside alien warriors. Drones, fighters, and capital ships lit up the void with fire and courage. But still, the swarm pressed. On then, from the heart of the fleet, came the oldest ships, the ones hidden for centuries, the ones humanity had buried with their dead. Each carried something no other ship had. Echo weapons, built from the last war. Weapons that could tear. Into the swarm's mind, only one problem: they had to be fired. From inside the swarm, and that meant death. Without waiting, Elias Ward and 10,000 human veterans volunteered. They said no goodbyes. Just one message. We were born in fire. Let us burn brighter. They flew into the darkness. Their ships vanished, one by one. Then, light. A sound like the stars themselves screaming. A hole torn through the swarm. And for the first time, the enemy stopped. Across the battlefield, every alien ship saw the opening, and they rushed in, united, fierce, terrified, but never alone. They fought not just for themselves, but for the ones who had fallen, for the humans who had warned them, for the children still watching back home. The battle raged for hours, then days, then silence. The swarm was gone, burned from existence, not by firepower, but by unity. When it was over, EHS Soulbound floated above the battlefield, damaged but alive. Admiral Seren stood on the bridge, eyes wet with tears. We held the line, she whispered. Behind her, alien commanders began to cheer. Across the galaxy, cities exploded with celebration, not of victory, but of survival. A monument was built in the galactic core. It showed a human soldier holding hands with alien children. Beneath it, a single line. When the stars went dark, we stood as one. And so, history remembered, not the weapons, not the fear, but the day humanity returned, not to conquer, but to unite. And the galaxy would never forget the sound that came before the battle. 100,000 human warships launching, and the galaxy shaking in silence.